Instead of using many appliances over the years, just use one to consume less and save more. Miele products are designed to last for 20 years. That's quality ahead of its time. Miele, immer besser.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to look at big workplaces now, and project by the Ministry of Design, wonderfully modest title to your practice, of the YTL headquarters in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. So over to you.
Thank you so much, and it's a real privilege to present this project to the esteemed jury. Hello from Spain. We are headquartered in Singapore, but we are traveling for work in Spain, and we are presenting our work in Malaysia, so it's very global indeed. The YTL headquarters is for a very large corporation that is headquartered in Malaysia, and they, over the years, decades of history, have accumulated a collection of very wide and disparate different portfolios, from cement production to hospitality to telco, even development. And over the years, their growth has been very organic. Recently, they have developed a building to unify as a single headquarters the disparate locations for all the different departments scattered across Kuala Lumpur city to just one location. And Ministry of Design was asked to design the public space interiors for this new headquarters. As you can see, the architecture here sits on a very narrow site. It was architecture by the American firm KPF, and it's a sort of very long, narrow building, over 30 stories tall. And in this sits dozens of different departments for the company, all with their own character, their own personality, but there was a need to find a common identity to represent the umbrella company YTL. The other interesting thing about YTL is that at this moment, they're transitioning from the generation for the grandfather who was the founder to the children, the sons, and now even the grandchildren are involved in the running of the company. So there was this sort of balance between the old and the new, the past, which is the legacy, and also looking forward. And what we tried to do was to represent that in two different areas. We were asked to design two specific areas. The main entry, as you can see here, which is this very tall, over 25-meter tall, very narrow space, which was quite difficult to work with, as well as a series of 3 stories worth of collective meeting areas. And these areas would be used by anyone visiting a YTL employee. So meetings would be consolidated over the entire tower with external consultants to just 3 floors. And what we decided to do was attribute one particular characteristic, one grounded in the past and the legacy and sort of like the timeless quality of YTL's older generation's work, and then having also another type of characteristic captured in the 3 floors of public meeting spaces, which captures the forward-looking young generation that's taking over and steering the company forward. So here you can see in the lobby space, these really large columns, very tall space. What we did was we wanted to create this incredibly timeless look, but we also wanted to create something that's human scale. We cut the columns at certain points to bring down the scale so that at the lower levels, it would seem a bit more comfortable. We also worked with Studio Sawada to create this incredible confetti celebratory-like installation, which is very light. And at night, also it catches the light very well. We designed a series of custom lighting fixtures that you can see embedded in the columns, clad with the Bugazza stone for the columns as well as the floors, and also little pieces of furniture that were a bit like pavilion-like. So as you sat to wait, you would feel as if you were in a space that was a little bit more human scale. One of the key challenges also was that in this space, although it looks symmetric, there's actually a really large circulatory core on the right, which threw everything off balance. So we had to use certain optical illusions by creating this portal that senses the space and draws you through to the reception, you get a card, you tap on these little machines, and then they would assign you a lift, and then you would be sent up to one of the 3 floors where you have the rest of your meetings. So here, the palette with the timeless marble, with the bronze accents, brings you the first chapter of your experience of the space. And in the elevators, you emerge later to the floors 8, 9, and 10, where the rest of the meeting spaces are. So you see here is a very narrow space, and then that circulation core and 04, the entry that we had to design to sort of rebalance the space. On the upper floors, you move from a more formal, sort of more sort of grand feeling to something that's a lot more welcoming. I think we blended techniques used in hospitality design with this sort of corporate space to create a space where you would have meetings in a cafe-like environment. Staff could also grab a bite, have a casual meeting, have a break. So it's a very kind of multi-purpose space. I think the new generation of leaders were gunning for not such a strong sense of formality, wanting to build partnerships and relationships with their partners that would be more informal, more collaborative, very people-centered. The 3 floors, 2 of which are united through this atrium space and this beautiful lightweight staircase, again, symbolically uniting different areas. The notion of different YTL departments coming together was very important. And we were very clear to maintain a simple, elegant, and unifying palette so that all these different spaces over 3 quite large floors would appear united. A series of waiting spaces where there is a sense of the corporate professionalism, but at the same time, something that was a bit more inviting, something a bit more casual, something a little bit more disarming. The signage, the facade work, interior facade works, the custom furniture, all designed to work as one space. This is a layout of the level 8, the cafe and meeting spaces that you saw. And then on the left side, the north of the building, a series of multi-purpose halls where they could do press events or even product launches. And moving to the next floor, on the upper levels, again, the continuation of meeting spaces, but in a variety of styles, where it could be more intimate one-to-one, where you didn't need a large group setting. Then we started introducing slightly more private rooms, visually seamlessly connected with the rest of the space, but acoustically private. And then as you enter through the rest of level 9 and even level 10, you get a series of rooms, which then become a lot more private with acoustic seals, but the palette continuing warm, inviting, and in different configurations, different sizes. And this happens over 2 floors, serving almost 10 or even, I think, up to 15 different separate entities that the YTL Corporation has grown to become. And then finally, a floor plan of that space. So you see all of the rooms taking advantage of natural light, even the ones in the middle, having the light leak through the 2 different layers of meeting spaces to enter the middle of the space. And this is repeated again on the 10th floor. As you can see here, a variety of rooms. And there was working with the client to ensure they were the right kind of rooms. We had the right variety of sizes as well as types of meeting that would enable both formal as well as informal styles of meeting. So together with the grand lobby space, the entire experience, at least for a visitor to the YTL headquarters, is meant to conjure the sense of balance between what used to be the foundation that YTL has already built, and then the future looking ahead to what YTL aims to become. Great, thank you. That's all I have to share today.
Thank you so much. I'd like to ask Oliver to begin questions, perhaps to do with
Sure.
colour. knows?
Well, who knows? No, I thought. I mean, it's a very kind of tasteful. It's a very tasteful environment that's been created, with some playful splashes, and particularly with the forms of the staircase and things like that. I'm curious to understand a little bit more about the relation to the YTL operation and how this is an expression of their corporate objectives. And one of the reasons I'm asking that is there's a TV series I've been watching at the moment, Succession, which is about a sort of media empire that takes place in this very corporate environment. But it's all very bloody and they're all very horrible to each other, and it's all very visceral. And it's this real disconnect. There's a real disconnect between the sort of the very kind of well-tempered environment and then the bad, ill-tempered kind of activity that happens there. And do you think that is there a deliberate attempt to kind of create a calming environment to counteract the energy, or how does it resonate with the way that YTL operate?
That's an excellent question, and I think prior to us joining the project, the client was also internally deliberating what that vision should look like, so they could, brief the interior architect accordingly. And I think one of the findings was that as time had grown, the organic quality by which it had grown had allowed for each of the different YTL components to be fairly independent and grow quite organically. And they now needed to find something which could unite them, they could rally behind. So if you go to the other floors, and there are almost 20 over other floors, you would see that each floor has its own kind of mini identity. But when anyone would visit and come to this floor, these floors and the ground level, there was meant to be something that then united everything. And I think the tricky thing was to find and determine what that characteristic was going to be. And in discussion with the clients, we realized that there were two things that were very important. The legacy of YTL. It's a very reputed and respected brand in Malaysia and in the region for its way of doing business, for its growth, over the last few decades.
Is it a property development company?
It does property development. It also has a finger in several other pies, telco, cement production, hospitality, hotels, boutique hotels. So quite varied in nature.
Right.
But property development is one of them.
Huge Asian conglomerates.
That's right.
That they specialize in Japan.
That's right. There are also properties in Japan they have developed. So as you can see here, we really wanted to sort of begin the story by saying the first chapter, when you first enter, is symbolically capturing the growth of YTL, sort of the history, the weightiness, the gravitas of what the grandparents, the parents have put in the blood, sweat, and tears into creating this empire. And it's designed to last. And then when you come to levels 8, 9, and 10, that's the next chapter, the looking ahead bit. Is it something that is a little bit more disarming? Is that sort of corporate, sort of grand gesture? Do we take that aside and sort of put that in the background and then replace it with something a bit more personal, like a company that you relate to in terms of the people as opposed to this corporate anonymous entity? So I think that was the conclusion. And with this, we hope
I'm going to move you on now to Johnny, who has perhaps a different perspective on Asian conglomerates.
Well, I must congratulate you. It's very, very difficult to work on such a big headquarter, and dealing with politics and hierarchies within the space. You never get your own design done. So it's a job well done. My question is, I want to know when you started to come into the project and start to negotiate with the architect. I believe it's in this case is Kate, right? Because I think that's a very important stepping stone. Does architecture come first, or does the interior come first? And then do you put your foot down and say, no, that's what I want? And where were you successful in that?
Well, thank you for the excellent question. And as with all things, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Good projects arise out of collaboration between not just client and designer, but also the consultants themselves. When we entered the project, it was quite well underway. All the structure, superstructure, and facade was already in. And I think there were several attempts to find a corporate identity through interior architecture with other firms, I suspect. And when we came to the picture, we were told that there was a history to the project, but we needed to sort of start anew. So we inherited a lot of the spaces, but one of the spaces which we were able to sort of collaborate and suggest certain changes was the atrium space. That didn't exist prior in level 8 and 9. And what we suggested was to sort of open up the space, give it the sense of lightness, just like almost like a recalling of the lightness that you feel in level 1's main entry. And we discussed that. The architect was fine with it. And then the client also had the foresight to develop the slab in such a way that no major structure ran through that area. So we were able to do that. So there was some level of inheriting, but some level of sort of back and forthing as well.
Thank you. Yale?
Yeah, so you said that your company designed the 3 floors, right? The 8, 9, 10 floors, but you started your presentation also with the entrance space to the tower, right?
We designed level 1,
right.
level 8, 9, and 10. So we designed all the images that we showed you. We designed them all.
Okay. So level 1 is a kind of entry space for many other companies within the tower?
No, the entire building is the headquarters of the company alone. So they own the entire building. This is theirs. If you translate this, it means YTL tower.
Okay. I'll focus further the question. So because I asked that because the entry floor is designed very differently. It feels very different. The color scheme is very different than the 8 and 9, 10 floor. Can you just articulate a little bit about the choice of material and why? Because it feels very different. So what was the reason
I think
for that?
Yes, I understand your question. Thanks so much. It's a good one. That distinction was very intentional. In understanding the client better, we realized there was 2 sides to them: its legacy and its past, and everything that the company is built upon, as well as the future and the way forward. And I think it was very important to the client to capture both looking back as well as looking ahead. So the decision then was made by ourselves, and we suggested to the client to create almost 2 different chapters to the sequence and experience of the headquarters. The first would be sort of almost this prototypical grand marble-clad entrance, but with twists. We added a lot of little elements to sort of modernize it, working with the artists in collaboration to create this suspended art, the detailing. So it's grand, but at the same time, it has certain innovations, and that represents the start of the company, the history and legacy upon which it's built.
We're going to have to speed you up a little bit.
Right. So that's the distinction between that and the upper floors. Upper floors meant to be more friendly, forward-looking, capturing the spirit of the younger generation.
Can I just get so let's just get the last question. Manuel, can you?
Yeah. On my side, I feel really simple question. So I feel the progression between the entrance space, which is more corporate, full of white, and then when you go up, something which gives more intimacy, comfort. My question is about the flexibility for the level 8 and 9, where you have the meeting rooms, the bar, and so on. Did you work on something which can be modular, flexible, which can change? For example, meeting rooms can become bigger, the bar can increase the surface. So did you work on this topic?
Yeah, so flexibility-wise, the entire 8th floor has a series of function spaces and breakout spaces that are able to accommodate a large group or be subdivided, as you can see in the north side. For the upper levels, we designed a series of rooms, some of which were compartmentalized and fixed, but others with operable walls that you could conjoin. And this is all based on the client specification. So yes, we balance flexibility with fixed spaces as well.
Okay, I'm afraid that time is up. I just want to ask you, are you actually sitting in the lobby space? Because I can see the
Yeah,
glinting
it seems
artwork
so.
behind you. Are you
Wonder
actually
of
there?
Zoom.
Or
No, we are quite far away. We're in Spain right now, and that's just an image
of
of the
course
lobby.
you are.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you reproduce the same space in Spain. But anyway, thank you so much for sharing your
You're most
project
welcome.
with us. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.